The election results are in, and a plan to increase property taxes in Austin failed to pass. KXAN projects voters overwhelmingly saying no to Proposition Q. You can see here 63% voted against it, 37% were in favor of it. Now, this would have generated millions of dollars for the city's homeless services, public safety programs, and public health. Now, even though it failed, we will note homeowners should still expect their bills to go up by around $100. But if Prop Q had passed last night, bills would have gone up by around $300 annually on average. So joining us to talk about what happens now is Austin City Council member Marc Duchen. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We want to remind folks that council did vote on this before it was sent to Austin voters, and you were the only city council member to vote against this plan at the time. Remind folks your thinking there.
Sure. So what happened is back in August, we had an opportunity to vote in the budget. I was the lone no vote in that budget. A lot of that was because we heard very loudly from a lot of constituents, from a lot of data, from even our own city study, that people had no appetite for this, that they were struggling, that we had passed kind of a historic tax increase between taxes, fees, utilities last year. And they were at a point where we've asked a lot of them, they're struggling with a lot of economic uncertainty. And this was not the time for another double-digit local tax fee increase. There was a lot of anger and frustration there, and that's a big part of why I voted no. A lot of people are calling this a surprise defeat, but in my view, we had a lot of information months ago that pointed to a lot of indicators suggesting people were not okay with this.
Obviously seeing that reflected in the numbers. I think when people hear the list of things that the city wanted to fund with this, you know, services for unhoused people and public safety, a lot of people could get behind that, but to your point, the affordability concerns may have outweighed this. What would you say to folks though who are now either worried about what will happen to those services that won't be funded? What do you do with that?
There were a lot of good programs that are, as you say, were not going to be funded. The reality, though, is a lot of that was additive, right? So a lot of that was not core city services. A lot of that was new programming and personnel. And so it's important to recognize that we're going to go back as part of our process and look at the base budget that we were given by the city manager back over the summer and revisit and perhaps make some tweaks and changes to that and see if there is a way to incorporate some of the highest priority items that might have been part of the TRE or Proposition Q. But by and large, a lot of that spending is new spending. And so a lot of our core city services, police, fire, EMS, libraries, parks, social services, et cetera, are protected, are part of the base budget. And so I'm confident that we can arrive at a good number this year and a good budget that's going to address most of people's concerns as well as protect core city services.
So as you mentioned, you and your colleagues will have to go revisit that budget that was passed about a month ago. We've heard this the last few hours since this election happened from the mayor. He said he would maybe like to go back to the city manager's base budget. That's the route he's leaning towards. What would you propose? What do you want to see yourself and your other colleagues do with this budget?
Well, two things. One is I agree with the mayor. I think that's the great starting point for us, is to look at that budget that goes to the state cap of 3.5% that I think was well prepared by the city manager. And as an excellent starting point, the other piece would be to look at what kind of efficiency study or audit we can perform, because here's the other reality I think that people are aware of, that we've turned a corner economically as a city. We're not in the place that we were with surpluses and all this tremendous growth that we've had over the last 10 or 15 years. But that growth was set up. It was facilitated by prior councils and managers and data that they were really smart about balancing budgets and including stakeholder engagement and spending wisely that set up that city for success. And we need to redo that. We need to use this opportunity. It's an enormous opportunity, maybe even a unique opportunity, to reflect on what worked in the past, gather our data, and prepare the city for the next decade of success and growth.
Of course, we've seen many of your colleagues say some hard decisions will have to be made in the process. What are some things do you think that Austin may lose out on as you try to do that?
Well, one of the biggest things that I'll be trying to go fight for, or see if there's a budget for, is the 4-person staffing for fire. That was something that was threatened to be cut and put in as a one-time expense into the tax rate election and to Prop Q. And so I want to make sure if there is any way we can go back and include that, because that's a key safety feature, that's a national standard. I want to make sure that we are prioritizing public safety and not cutting things to the extent that it would make things unsafe for people. So all 11 of us are going to have different priorities that we're going to go after, but certainly mine are in the public safety space. And it's going to be an interesting process to see what comes out in the end. But the good news, again, to me, is that that base budget that the manager prepared has a lot of core city services, police, fire, EMS, parks, libraries, et cetera. It's already primarily accounted for. What we were voting for was by a large part new programming, new homeless services, new EMS services, additional staff pay increases in 2027 and beyond, et cetera.
What would you tell folks at home about when to expect this process to wrap up? How long will it take to iron out some of these difficult differences?
I'm optimistic that we can knock this out this month. And so I'm hopeful that by even the meeting that we've got on November the 20th, that we can have a working budget that we can move forward on. It's going to take some hustling and it's going to take some effort on our part to make sure that we can come together as a council. I think the good news, though, to me is that I think people will have a different perspective on, I think there's a growing recognition that we have turned this corner that I talked about, this financial corner that the public is aware of, but I'm not sure City Hall is lagging behind on. I think this vote helps cement that we are in a new economic reality, and I think that's going to make it easier to have these conversations over the next couple of weeks.
Councilmember Duchen, we're out of time with you, but thank you so much for coming here today, and I know we'll have lots to watch and ask you about in the weeks to come.
I'm so grateful to be here and looking forward to the process myself.
We appreciate it.